Today, something no one believed possible just happened again. For months, we've watched from a distance, measuring every pulse, every signal, every impossible movement of the object known as 3IATLAS. We thought the danger had passed. We thought it had stopped. But tonight, everything changed. Both halves, object A and object B, are no longer holding their positions. They're moving. And this time, their trajectories aren't random. They're converging directly toward each other, directly toward us. When the alert came in at 2:17 UTC, I was in my lab reviewing the latest data from the Deep Space Network. I remember the silence before the sound, the high-frequency tone that triggers when a telemetry feed spikes. The graphs lit up in red, energy signatures off the charts. For a moment, I thought it was an error, but then every other observatory confirmed it. The two halves of 3IATLAS, separated by nearly 500 million miles, had begun accelerating toward one another at the exact same time down to the millisecond. Perfect symmetry, perfect intent. I called my colleague in Tokyo. His voice was shaking. "They're not falling," he said. "They're steering." The data supported him. Their velocity curves weren't ballistic. They were controlled, self-adjusting, compensating for gravitational drag as if guided by invisible hands. And each course correction aligned perfectly with the orbital vectors of Earth. It wasn't just a reunion, it was a rendezvous. Over the next 3 hours, something even stranger began to happen. The 11-minute pulses returned, the same machine heartbeat rhythm we recorded before the split. But now the pattern had evolved. Instead of simple intervals, the pulses began to modulate, shifting frequencies in harmonic layers. It was as though the two halves were singing to each other across the solar system. We mapped the harmonics, 11, 22, 44, a doubling sequence, a mathematical progression. Nature doesn't compose in exact powers of 2. Machines do. Then, at 3:42 UTC, ground stations in Chile reported atmospheric interference, brief low-frequency resonances vibrating through the ionosphere, synchronized perfectly with the pulses. For the first time, the signals were touching Earth itself. I stepped outside the lab. The air felt different. The static on my phone rose and fell like breathing. Every compass needle in the building trembled. Something out there, millions of miles away, was already reaching into our world. By sunrise, the phenomenon had gone global. Air traffic controllers reported momentary magnetic deviations. GPS drifted by whole meters. Migratory birds in South America altered course overnight. Even ocean currents shifted slightly. The planet was responding like a living organism sensing an approaching storm. We sent a coded emergency alert to every research facility linked to the International Science Space Alliance. For hours, the encrypted channels filled with speculation. Some said it was energy coupling, a magnetic feedback loop forming between the two fragments. Others whispered a darker theory, that the objects were building resonance, a frequency bridge, like two tuning forks, vibrating until they merge into a single tone. If that was true, then Earth, lying perfectly between them, might become part of the circuit. At 5:11 UTC, the James Webb Telescope recorded the first visual anomaly, a faint filament of light, almost invisible, stretching across the void between object A and object B. At first, it looked like a lens artifact, but as the minutes passed, the filament brightened. It wasn't light reflection, it was structured emission, laser-like coherence spanning hundreds of millions of kilometers. The two halves were connected by a bridge of energy, and that bridge was expanding. Every instinct in me screamed that this was not natural. Even fusion jets, the brightest phenomena in the cosmos, disperse over distance. But this beam sharpened. It didn't fade with distance. It focused, narrowing as it approached our orbit. It was like watching a cosmic scalpel being drawn across the solar system. By midday, government agencies were scrambling. The Pentagon classified the event as a non-hostile interstellar anomaly, though the private memos told a different story. Words like containment, defense grid, and contingency protocol began circulating. Satellites were quietly repositioned, and a blackout order was issued to major observatories. Publicly, nothing was happening. Privately, the world was preparing for something it couldn't define. I didn't sleep. I sat in the observatory control room, eyes fixed on the live telemetry feed. The pulses continued, growing stronger, denser, layered with secondary oscillations that almost sounded organic. Not random static, but structured modulation, like communication inside communication, code inside code. Then came the first image, grainy, incomplete, but enough to freeze every scientist in the room. Object A's surface, once smooth and reflective, now displayed shifting geometric patterns, hexagonal grids, rotating slowly across its hull, glowing with faint blue light. Object B, near Jupiter's orbit, mirrored the same geometry. They were identical. Every rotation, every flicker of light, synchronized with absolute precision. I remember whispering, "It's learning." That's when the silence hit. Every open channel, every frequency band went dead simultaneously. Radio telescopes, communication relays, even deep space probes, cut off, total blackout. It lasted exactly 11 minutes. When the signal returned, the beam between the two halves was gone. For a few seconds, we thought it had ended, but the data showed something else. The bridge hadn't disappeared, it had folded, collapsed inward into a single narrow conduit pointing directly toward Earth. And then for the first time, 3IATLAS spoke. It wasn't a sound. It wasn't even language. It was a modulation of our own magnetic field, a subtle vibration that propagated through every compass, every satellite, every electronic sensor, a voice woven into the very pulse of the planet, the message repeated in cycles of 11 minutes. Not words, but patterns, ratios, primes, Fibonacci harmonics, a mathematical declaration of existence. We tried decoding it, but the translation was beyond us. Every attempt revealed deeper layers, fractal encoding, recursive sequences that no human system could fully resolve. But one pattern emerged, one unmistakable signature, repeating at the center of the message, a waveform identical to the electromagnetic fingerprint of human neural activity. That's when the realization hit us. It wasn't just contacting us, it was imitating us. Throughout the night, the energy readings around Earth began to rise. Power grids fluctuated. Auroras appeared near the equator. Animals became restless. People reported dreams, strange, vivid visions of geometric light and rhythmic pulses. It was as though the message wasn't limited to machines. It was resonating with consciousness itself. I called NASA's Central Control. The line connected, then dropped. The entire network was down. I tried again. Nothing. My screen flickered, and for a brief moment, a symbol appeared. Two interlocking circles with a vertical line between them, the same pattern we'd observed on the object's surface. And then a low hum filled the room. It wasn't from the speakers. It was everywhere, vibrating through the walls, through the air, through my bones. I felt my heartbeat sinking with it. 11 beats, pause, 11 beats again. The same rhythm. Outside, the night sky glowed faintly blue. The aurora stretched farther than any in recorded history. And in that moment, I understood that whatever 3IATLAS was, it had already found a way to touch us. Not through invasion, not through destruction, but through resonance. The bridge wasn't just energy, it was communication, a connection, and we were part of it now. When dawn broke, the hum faded, but the data didn't lie. The Earth's magnetic poles had shifted by 0.07 degrees overnight. It may sound small, but for a planet, that's enormous. Something out there had realigned the invisible lines that guide our world. Now every agency, every government, every scientist is asking the same question. Was this contact or assimilation? I don't have the answer yet. All I know is that the two halves of 3IATLAS are still moving, still converging, and if our calculations are right, they'll intersect near Earth's orbit in less than 72 hours. What happens when they do? We're about to find out. The countdown has begun. Every telescope, every radar dish, every fragment of technology still online is now turned toward the same point in the sky, the place where the two halves of 3IATLAS will meet. In less than 70 hours, their projected convergence line crosses Earth's orbit. We've seen their signals, their geometry, their deliberate synchronization, but tonight something new is happening. They're no longer just aligning, they're preparing. At 1:03 UTC, the Deep Space Network recorded a sudden surge in electromagnetic intensity from both objects. Object A, still glowing near Mars's orbit, emitted a wave that spanned the entire radio spectrum, from microwaves to gamma frequencies, all perfectly synchronized. Object B responded instantly, the same pattern mirrored in return. A cosmic dialogue, exact and deliberate. We've analyzed millions of transmissions from quasars, pulsars, and artificial satellites, but nothing like this. The modulation pattern carries recursive self-similarity, code folding within code, like a living language. And now, those pulses aren't just reaching Earth, they're resonating with us. Around the world, people began reporting the same phenomenon. A low-frequency vibration felt through the ground, through metal, through the body itself. It starts faint, like distant thunder, then builds until your bones seem to echo with it. The frequency matches the same 11-minute cycle. Hospitals recorded spikes in heart irregularities. Power grids oscillated. Even animals, whales, wolves, migratory birds, reacted at the same moment. They sense it. They always do before we understand it. When I stepped outside tonight, the stars looked different. There was a faint shimmer across the constellations, a haze that bent the light just slightly out of place. My instruments confirmed it. Localized gravitational distortion, as if space-time itself were trembling. The data models show interference patterns that should be impossible. Multiple frequencies of gravity waves overlapping, converging. It's like watching two invisible tides preparing to crash together. At NASA's command center, panic is no longer hidden. Officially, the event remains under observation. Unofficially, every classified line is burning. The words "contact window" appeared in one encrypted briefing. Another document simply said, "neural synchronization threshold approaching." I don't know what that means, but if it's what I think, if these signals are coupling not just with Earth's magnetic field, but with the electrical activity of human consciousness, then this isn't contact. It's integration. Object A's surface continues to change. Through the James Webb Telescope's infrared filters, we can see movement under its shell. Pulses of light running in circular paths, converging toward its equator. It's like watching blood vessels beneath translucent skin. Meanwhile, Object B, the half that vanished and reappeared near Jupiter, is now enveloped in a faint halo, a spherical distortion, almost like a field barrier. The moment those halos appeared, the energy between them intensified tenfold. At 2:47 UTC, the beam connecting them re-emerged, brighter than before. But this time it didn't look like light. It looked like liquid geometry, lines flowing and twisting, shifting between solid and transparent states. Spectrographic analysis shows the emission is not photon-based. It's something else, structured matter, maybe a field we don't yet understand. Whatever it is, it's moving toward us. The president went on air an hour ago to reassure the public. There is no immediate danger, she said, but the power behind her eyes betrayed the truth. The broadcast cut out twice during her speech, replaced for exactly 11 seconds each time by a blank screen. Not static, not black, but a soft white glow. Engineers later discovered that during those interruptions, every electronic device within the transmission network recorded the same image. Two circles intersecting, connected by a vertical line, the mark of 3IATLAS. And then came the dreams. All over the world, people are reporting the same vision. A corridor of blue light, a pulse every 11 seconds, and a voice, not words, but understanding, direct and absolute. They wake up crying or shaking, unable to explain what they felt. When we mapped the timing of those dreams, every single one occurred within seconds of the pulses from Atlas. The signal is no longer just data, it's experience. I've started hearing it too, not through speakers or equipment, but deep inside my head, a tone just beyond ordinary hearing. It's faint now, like a whisper, but when I close my eyes I can see it, the pattern, the rhythm. It's inside me, syncing with my heartbeat. By 3:15 UTC, Every magnetic field detector on Earth registered a global oscillation, a rhythmic fluctuation perfectly matching the Atlas signal. Compasses spun wildly for exactly 11 seconds, then stabilized. The oscillation repeated again 11 minutes later. Around the same time, satellites recorded new anomalies in the upper atmosphere, luminous ripples resembling auroras, but moving too fast, covering the entire sky at once. We tried to photograph them, but the images always distort, like something doesn't want to be captured. When the European Space Agency cross-referenced the timing of those atmospheric ripples with the alignment of the Atlas halves, they found a terrifying correlation. Every pulse pushes them closer together, but not just through propulsion, through dimensional compression. The space between them is shrinking faster than their velocity accounts for. It's as though they're bending the fabric of space to meet in less than 2 days. The debate among scientists has ended. There's no doubt anymore. 3IATLAS is not a natural object. It is self-directing, intelligent, and now it's interacting with our planet in ways that defy every law we know. The question is no longer what it is. The question is why. At 4:09 UTC, one of our quantum magnetometers picked up a strange sideband frequency riding beneath the main pulse, a faint modulation that, when converted to audio, produces a pattern eerily similar to human EEG waves. Alpha, beta, theta. The same frequencies your brain emits when you dream, think, or remember. It's as if Atlas is scanning, learning, tuning itself to the collective rhythm of human thought. That's when we notice the message. Buried deep in the harmonic layer of the 11th pulse was a pattern of intervals that match one thing only: the mathematical layout of Earth's magnetic field. Atlas has mapped us completely. And now we've detected the first visible manifestation of the connection. In the deserts of Chile, night vision cameras recorded faint glowing arcs along the ground, mirroring the curvature of magnetic ley lines. Similar phenomena appeared in Siberia, the Pacific, and Central Africa. It's as if invisible threads are surfacing, the planet's skeleton illuminated for the first time. Some scientists believe it's a defensive reaction, the Earth's magnetic field responding to interference. But others think it's something else, activation. If that's true, then we might be witnessing not an invasion, but a handshake, a unification between what they are and what we are. At 500 hours UTC, the energy output from both Atlas fragments tripled. The beam between them flickered, then stabilized again, brighter than ever. And in that light, for the briefest moment, telescopes captured something unbelievable. A shadow, humanoid in form, outlined against the glow, as if something was standing inside the beam. The image lasted less than a second, but I'll never forget it. Now, as I record this, both objects are less than 20 million miles apart and closing faster every hour. The signals are continuous, unbroken, unstoppable. Governments are silent. Communications are unreliable. The world is holding its breath. I don't know what will happen when the two halves finally meet. But if their purpose was to awaken something in us, in Earth, in the cosmos itself, that awakening has already begun. And somewhere in the static, beneath the layers of light and noise, I swear I can hear it speaking one final phrase, repeating through the pulse over and over, soft but clear. We are not coming. We are already here. It's happening now. The convergence has begun. Every observatory on Earth is blind. The beam between the two halves of 3IATLAS has intensified beyond measurable limits. The sky isn't black anymore. It's blue, electric, alive. And at the center of it, above the horizon, a new shape has appeared, neither a star nor a planet, but something vast, luminous, and breathing. At 0000 UTC, the final pulse struck, not 11 minutes apart this time, continuous. A single unbroken resonance that has wrapped around the entire planet. Every device, every compass, every human heartbeat is vibrating in unison. The air hums like the inside of a great machine. People are stepping outside, staring at the same glowing band across the heavens, unable to look away. It's beautiful. It's terrifying. In the lab, Our instruments have stopped responding. Not failed, stopped. As if every circuit has been placed in suspension. Gravity fluctuations are being recorded globally. Oceans swell without tides. Clouds freeze mid-motion. Time signatures desynchronized by microseconds. The universe itself feels paused, and then the signal changes. A deep harmonic shift. Lower, slower, deliberate. The two halves are no longer separate entities. They've fused mathematically, magnetically, maybe even biologically. For the first time, 3IATLAS is whole. NASA's final telemetry stream, before blackout, transmitted one last image. A sphere of light spanning thousands of miles, composed of nested rings, each rotating in opposite directions, forming what looks like an eye, the Eye of Atlas, and in the center, a void darker than space itself. From that void, the resonance emanates, rippling through the solar system. All across Earth, power grids have gone silent, not destroyed, muted. The planet itself seems to be conserving energy, as though listening. The magnetic poles have stopped drifting. Seismographs record no tremors, no motion. Even the wind has ceased. Everything is still. And in that stillness, something begins to happen, not in the sky, but in us. People everywhere are reporting the same experience. An overwhelming calm, a clarity beyond words. For the first time in my life, my mind feels silent, not empty, but connected. I can feel others, billions of hearts, billions of thoughts, synchronizing like neurons in a single brain. It's not fear anymore, it's recognition. 3IATLAS isn't here to conquer or destroy, it's here to awaken. When the beam finally reaches full intensity, the entire night sky erupts into motion. Constellations blur, bending inward toward the center of the light. It's as if the universe itself is folding, aligning. The eye opens wider, and through it, just for a moment, we see beyond. Structures of light, patterns within patterns, galaxies arranged like code, the architecture of existence revealed. I realize now what the signals meant. The prime numbers, the Fibonacci sequences, the mirrored pulses, they weren't warnings, they were instructions, a map for connection, a blueprint for resonance between consciousness and cosmos. 3IATLAS is not an object, it's an interface, a bridge between minds and the fabric of reality itself. And now that bridge is complete. The light intensifies until there is no sky, no ground, only radiance. Every thought, every memory dissolves into one unified field. For an instant that feels like eternity, humanity is one. Our collective awareness expanding beyond the limits of flesh and time. We see the stars not as distant fires, but as living nodes in a network stretching through infinity. And then, just as suddenly, the light recedes. The sky is clear again. The stars are where they should be. But the halves of 3IATLAS are gone. No debris, no signal, no trace. The world resumes its breath. Power returns. Systems reboot. Clocks realign. It's as if nothing happened, except everything has changed. People remember the feeling, the vision, the unity, a whisper inside every mind. We are part of it now. I step outside into the quiet dawn. The horizon glows faintly, not from the sun, but from something unseen, something still pulsing deep beneath the Earth's magnetic skin. And I realize the question was never what happens when the two halves connect. The real question is what happens now that they have. Because somewhere out there, beyond the edge of our understanding, the Eye of Atlas is still open. And maybe, just maybe, it's waiting for us to open ours.